Last Friday night, we did a demo at a AI meetup showing generative AI for creating runnable Markdown files. And we weren't able to record it, so I thought I would take 5 minutes now to just go over the essential details of the demo. So I have an open VSCode session, and we're often familiar with the feeling of going into a project and sort of forgetting how to use even the tools that you know quite well. And so one of the ways that we tackle that is we use README files or Markdown files in our project to have all the details of how to use certain tools in the project. So we can use generative AI to generate a Markdown of this kind. And the quality of the Markdown we've realized is higher if it can extract details about the project and use those details in order to create a better quality of individual commands. And the other observation we made was that when LLMs are generating instructions, they do it often in the form of these code blocks. And so these code blocks, if we bind actions to them, like run in terminal, we can create another little feedback loop here where not only does the LLM create this command, but then we can very easily run it and make sure it actually works in the project. Now, in reality, when you're working on something, some code, and you realize, I need to do something with a tool, you don't want to have to go back to a Markdown file and search for a code block and run that. That's never going to work. But if we allow the LLM to generate instructions, maybe we can also allow it to bind those instructions to keystrokes. And in this example here, if I mark this code block, then when I'm somewhere else and I realize, what was that thing that the LLM said I should run here? And I can kind of quickly look that up and go, okay, there it is. So I want to build that. So here, in a sense, you have the LLM just teaching your editor how to do certain commands, and it's in a non-ephemeral representation, so we can kind of version this and continue to evolve it and almost have the LLM teach our editor how to be a better editor with respect to certain tools. The other thing that we looked at was the ability to try to do this work with different LLMs. So that example I gave you there was OpenAI GPT-4, but we can also switch to, say, Llama 2 with a Llama, and let me just generate the same notebook again. And this is all just happening with Llama 2 locally on my machine. It takes a bit of time to get started, but once it's going, it's actually really fast. And so sometimes we get like kind of different instructions here, sometimes different quality as well. So this is actually for us been a good test bed for looking at the relationship of between prompts and the LLMs that we're using. Let me jump over to the generative AI project. Let me make sure I'm still using. Let me switch back to OpenAI for this one, GPT-4, and this is a Docker Compose project. Let me generate a run book on using Docker in this project, and what we've seen is it's actually very good at looking at the sort of environmental dependencies that are in the project. So it recognizes that in order to use this, you're going to have to set up your environment correctly, and we have build nodes in there, so it knows that you need to use Docker Compose up with build. I can run this in a terminal. We also are sort of experimenting with just noting that once you see these services, you can start and stop them right directly from the compose file. And the other thing is, like, this, I'm giving you a lot of examples here which are very sort of Docker specific, but in fact we should look at being able to generate runbooks for sort of any kind of tool. So if you look at, say, the tool Lazy Docker, which is an open source TUI, and kind of go through the same basic idea here, it's going to give you a little bit of information about Lazy Docker. But also it's going to come up with this command here to bind it into this session. And so if I look at what commands are available here, I now have Lazy Docker, and I can run this inside of my terminal. And I didn't have to at any point here. I didn't have to install Lazy Docker really, because I'm just running it as a Docker container. So this is a really, really simple way of sort of just getting started with some tools, because we've got the Docker engine underneath us to help us with running this. So that's kind of the basic structure of the demo that we gave, and the big points were about using generative AI to manage these runbooks, to come up with to use project specific information, extract them into the prompts, and to think about ways of binding the commands that are working into your actual terminal session, so that the LLM is really almost like instructing the editor how to give you the tools more easily.